To me, one of the most enjoyable aspects of life are those happy little accidents that can occur along life's journey. When I was a student in England studying garden history and design, I quite serendipitously came upon a family in a beautiful garden not unlike this one. Little did I know that this family would influence my own gardening design style. So today, I'd like to take you to the heart of Cheshire, England, to Arley Hall, and introduce you to my friends, an exceptional family of gardeners. We'll also take a look at my small garden. Well, I'll show you how to apply some of these English design principles in your own garden. And we'll have a walk around the English walled garden at the Chicago Botanic Garden, so don't go away. This is a magical place for me, Arley Hall in Cheshire, England. It's home to what's reputed to be the oldest herbaceous borders in the United Kingdom. And it's also home to a remarkable family of garden enthusiasts, led by Lady Elizabeth Ashbrook. Lady Ashbrook, the first time people see this border when they come around the corner, it's such a surprise.
Yes, I think it is. I do very often notice them stop. Yeah, and almost gasp.
Yes, they do. I mean, it's so beautiful, the color, and it's so intense.
Well, I think the sheer size of it is unusual.
You have to believe that it was designed this way.
Oh, yes, yes. It was designed this way, but of course not divided up into these beds.
A herbaceous border is made up of a tapestry of perennial plants, usually the smaller ones in front and the taller ones in the back. But Lady Ashbrook feels that strictly following this rule of thumb can become too monotonous, so she mixes things up by allowing noticeable breaks in the rhythm of the plants.
I think it's much better to break it up like it, but I think equally it's essential to have a few tall, noticeable plants soaring up at the back to emphasize its width. And
right.
You know?
And in the back here we have the Scotch thistle and these big tall rudbeckias.
Yes.
And of course the American eupatorium, the Joe Pye weed.
Oh, is that what you call it?
Yes, ma'am.
Eupatorium, there's a purple and a white.
That's right, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm always astonished when I come to these herbaceous borders in Britain to see so many American native plants in them.
Yes, I'm very interested. I hadn't realized how many plants we owe to America.
Well, they seem right at home here and very happy.
Yes.
For a list of North American native plants commonly used in English garden designs, just log on to my website. That's pallensmith.com. There you'll find information about some of the colorful plants I enjoy, like Joe Pye weed, goldenrod, asters, and much more.
What is quite fun, of course, I do quite enjoy it, walking around, getting into conversation with some of the visitors. I did it yesterday and it was really rather fun. I was tired and I wanted to sit down and I saw a seat with one lady sitting on it.
Right.
And I said to her, do you mind if I share your seat? And she hadn't a clue that I was anything to do with this place. And we had an absolutely fascinating conversation for a very long time about what sort of people it must be who live here and what their lives are.
How fun.
And she was very sweet. And then our husband joined her. And finally, I thought I'd better admit to, you know.
Let the cat out of the bag, as it were.
Yeah, it was quite fun.
Well, you know, that's a little bit the way it went when I met Lord Ashbrook the first time. Because I was in the grove,
yes.
walking around,
yeah.
enjoying the beautiful scenery and everything that had been planted there, and I saw this very well-dressed gentleman walking along with a with a long stick,
Yes.
a walking stick. And he said, you know, he said, my wife is a very keen gardener, and she would, I think you'd enjoy meeting her. And I said, well, I'd love to meet her. And the whole time I thought that this fellow was just here visiting just as I was. And then he told me that this was his home. And then soon after that I met you. Yeah.
And I think you stayed to supper, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Yeah, and then I think you came back again.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, very soon, I mean, following quite soon after, and I think you stayed the night.
I did, and just enjoyed the garden and the conversation even more. It just kept going on and on. Like so many English country estates, Arley was transformed by the effects of the Second World War. The house itself went through various changes during the war, including becoming a haven for children whose London homes were devastated by the war. The beautiful gardens of England, and particularly those at Arley Hall, have inspired me in many ways. For instance, my own front garden is reminiscent of the borders at Arley, but of course mine is on a much more modest scale. And I'm always looking for plants that can capture the quintessential feel of an English garden. That's why I recently created this bouquet using flowers inspired by my travels to England. This English garden bouquet contains old-fashioned snowball viburnum, delphinium, bells of Ireland, along with these beautiful salmon roses, which are accented by these delicate asters and another old-fashioned favorite, the lilac. I grew many of these plants in my garden, and I always enjoy putting together arrangements like this to give to my friends and family. Now, if you'd like to give an English garden bouquet similar to the one I created as a gift, say for Mother's Day, just check out my website for a source. That's pallensmith.com. When we come back, we'll hear more about Arley Hall and meet Lady Ashbrook's children, who are carrying on the family gardening tradition.
Those spires are just wonderful.
They are. I think the most unique thing about the gardens here at Arley is that they have been designed by members of the family.
It's my proud boast, and I hope it'll always remain the fact.
Tell me about what your children have done in the garden.
Both my children, both Michael and Jane, have garden interests. And Michael, of course, has created an entirely new shrub garden, the Grove. I take a bit of credit for it. I don't know whether he realizes it. I think he does. That he used to come, it was before he married, he used to come down for weekends. And he, very often, there was some young lady who was of great interest to him in London or somewhere else, and he would be thinking a good deal about her, not very rarely
about the garden.
And I got rather bored with this, and I said to him once, why don't you find an interest here? You come down at weekends and you really haven't got anything to do. Why don't you find an interest?
And I think it was my mother, actually, who, I owe a lot of things in my life to my mother, as you will realize. And she thought I was kicking my heels a bit. She'd been given the idea that something very good could be done in the Grove. And I did immediately. It struck some sort of a chord, and then I did get interested, and I started off with a few rhododendrons. I remember planting one or two pink pearls, and then a few weeks later I told my mother that I was going to plant another rhododendron, and she said, what are you going to plant? So I said, I might plant pink pearls. So she said, no, Michael, there are other forms of rhododendron.
Right.
Well, now, of course, we've got nearly 300 different varieties in the Grove. But the Grove is very much trees, exotic trees, shrubs of various kinds. Quite a lot of magnolias, including, yes, well, one which you very kindly gave me, as you will remember, wonderful thing called Magnolia macrophylla from the southern United States, as you know very well.
One of the big-leafed magnolias.
Huge thing.
Yeah.
And I always love showing people that. And if you take most people to it, they have no idea what it is. They quite often think it's a banana.
Well, it looks very tropical, doesn't it?
It looks rather tropical.
Yeah.
But we've got it planted, as you know, in a I hope it's sufficiently sheltered, because one's very conscious that its home territory is a lot warmer than we get in Cheshire.
So Michael has really done a lot with the shrubs and the trees, and of course Jane has done beautiful things with herbaceous plants.
Jane has done a tremendous amount, and what's more, she is now creating an extremely attractive garden on the east side of the house. And each year it gets a bit better, and it's totally unlike anywhere else in the garden, which is I'm so pleased about.
Well, my garden started here in, I think it was April '91, as I remember, when we planted this yew hedge. Part of the thing I had to think about was the very large building, the house and the chapel right beside, and also the balustrade, which goes all the way around the edge.
Right, so the scale of this garden had to fit.
Well, that's right, and it had to be relatively formal, because you couldn't very well have just a lovely little cottagey mass of plants. I decided I wanted to have herbaceous borders. I thought I must have yew hedges, because we need protection from the wind and so on, and they're a lovely backdrop. But I was just thinking of sort of rather boring straight yew hedges, and my mother said, well, how about a circle? And I thought, gosh, that's super. That's a really nice idea. And it's different. We haven't got it anywhere else at Arley.
Well, I mean, she certainly inspired me through the years. Lady Ashbrook, thank you so much. It's been marvelous being here again.
Well, it's been lovely seeing you, Ellen. It always is, and I can't believe you say it's 4 years.
Since we last saw each other, that's right.
I don't believe it.
4 years.
Well, you don't seem to have changed much.
Well, and you haven't either.
Oh, I have, but never mind.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, it's been great fun.
It has been marvelous.
Great fun.
A beautiful English garden in the heartland of America. The rest of the story coming up next. Welcome back. Well, we've seen those magnificent borders at Arley Hall, the oldest herbaceous borders in England. Now, if you've missed any of this, you can always check out my website. That's pallensmith.com. Now, let's take a tour of the English walled garden here at the Chicago Botanic Garden. John, this garden is so beautiful, it has to be one of the most popular gardens here at the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Well, I think it would be safe to say that it is the most popular garden. People seem to be able to relate to this garden.
Really? And why do you think so?
Well, its small and intimate spaces provide a way for people to interact with it as they would in their own gardens.
And there are a lot of familiar flowers here, I think, to everyone.
There are definitely many familiar flowers.
The element that's quintessentially English is, of course, that border out on the outside of the wall.
Yes, it is. The perennial border, the herbaceous border, whatever you want to call it, it's actually a combination of many different kinds of plants. There's trees, there's shrubs, there's perennials, annuals, vines, all the layers of a garden are there.
Yes, it's really a mixed border, I suppose.
Yeah.
Classic full-stop English, that border. Well, you know, John, over the years I've had an opportunity to spend quite a bit of time in English gardens, and I have to say this one really hits the mark.
Well, that was the assignment of John Brooks, the designer of this garden.
And of course, John's English.
Absolutely.
Well-known English garden designer.
And his challenge was to create a garden that would reflect the many different styles of English gardens that have evolved over the years. And the whole garden is a series of walls and rooms that are broken up by different spaces, but throughout you have a sense of that there's something beyond, and it draws one through the garden and into the next space.
Yeah. Now, where are we going here?
Here we're coming into the beginning of the cottage garden, and this is where you'll find one of the more unique features of the garden. The English wall garden as a whole has two major axes, and you're actually standing on one of them.
Oh, I see, right.
Line up with this sundial, it lines up with the urn in the daisy garden, and then through the vista pool in the vista garden, and on to the view beyond.
Now, if we turn this direction, this takes us into the cottage garden.
Yes, we'll move through the rose arbor here, which is kind of the entrance on this side. and you're able to have a little closer inspection of the plants. The plants are completely informally planted, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of all kinds of things, from fruits and vegetables to flowers of all sorts, especially aromatic and fragrant ones, a lot of herbs.
Right. You know, John, for anyone who wants to get involved in gardening, I think the cottage garden is a good style to start with because virtually anything goes.
It's a great style, and that's how people got involved in gardening, and we aren't brought up that way today, that relaxed feel. People feel that they need to do something with some high design, but it's not about that. It's really learning about how to grow something, putting something in the ground, failing, and starting over.
Just jump in there and plant. Anything goes.
And right here, we're coming upon another one of the axes of the garden, the second axis.
Oh, yes.
There's a bench down here, which if you sit in it, you'll get a perfect view of the fountain down there, which is now obscured by the Cercidophyllum or Katsura tree, the weeping, which is actually another spectacular plant.
It's a beautiful plant.
And the yew hedge is another really unique, there's a lot of unique stories about the making of this garden. This hedge was part of an estate here in the vicinity, and the people who owned it wanted to take it down. They knew about the Botanic Garden, and they knew of the English wall garden going in, and they asked us if we would be interested in taking it. So the plants were actually tagged and numbered in order and planted back in the same order, and we had an instant hedge.
What a magnificent gift. Using hedges, creating vistas, and enclosures are design concepts that you commonly see in English gardens. I've incorporated these ideas into my own garden. One of my favorite views is from my front garden, across the fountain and through the arbors leading to my circle garden with the tool shed in the background. And here you can see how I've created an arch in this cypress hedge that leads to a shady path in my side garden. If you'd like to build an arch like this, the plans are on my website. That's pallensmith.com. How the English gardening style has influenced my garden when we come back. There's nothing like a profusion of blooms like these to dazzle us. The rich tapestry all these colors and textures make is really magnificent. Can you imagine all of these flowers in your garden? Well, this is quite some flower garden. In fact, it's one of the oldest herbaceous borders in Britain, dating back to the 1840s. Let's just take a look at some of the beautiful flowers growing here. So what can we learn from such an inspiring place? Well, over the years, I've learned plenty from my visits to Arley. In fact, I've drawn a lot of inspiration from this place for my own front garden, both in terms of many of the plants I've used, as well as some of the basic design concepts. To me, there's nothing better than a dark evergreen hedge to plant flowers against. They just show up that much better. But if you do, you want to make sure that you give yourself plenty of room between the hedge and the planting. This is for two reasons. First is you want to make sure that you get plenty of light so that your hedge doesn't defoliate. And second, by giving yourself plenty of room, it's easier to work in the flower border and shear the hedge. This space is commonly called a catwalk.
A great companion to P. Allen Smith Gardens is our website, pallensmith.com. Log on to learn more about today's topic. You'll also get hands-on gardening tips, design ideas, lessons in garden history, delicious recipes, and crafts projects that will take you from season to season. All beautifully illustrated with thousands of colorful images that will inspire your creativity. Plus, don't miss Allen's free monthly newsletter delivered straight to your inbox, all just a mouse click away at pallensmith.com.
You never know what surprises await you in a garden. New plants you've never seen before, unique combinations of plants you may want to try in your own garden, and the opportunity to meet lifelong friends. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you'd like more information on how to integrate English garden design principles in your own garden, just check out my website. That's pallansmith.com. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.